Hey folks, welcome back to Only the Best Fantasy Novels. My name is Robin, and today I'm excited to talk about my second most anticipated release of 2024, and that is An Instruction in Shadow by Benedict Jacka. This is the second book in his brand new series, Stephen Oakwood or The Inheritance of Magic, whichever you prefer, and it's a very different change. It's a decent change of pace from the high octane series debut that we got last year, which incidentally was my favorite book of 2023. So, what is this book about? We open pretty much right after the events of the first book, and Stephen is in a pretty good place at this point, in terms of all the conflict that he was dealing with in that first book. He's on. He's not on the greatest footing, but he's on pretty stable footing given where we first met him. So, obviously, life being life, things can't ever be easy, right? It immediately, because the status quo that he's managed to build almost immediately becomes jeopardized when, through the foolishness of someone that he considered a friend, and it just goes downhill from there, as is typical in our society. When one thing happens, things just pile on behind it to make it worse, right? Anyway, so that's happening, and at the same time, he's kind of forced to confront the fact that if he wants to continue the search for his father, he may have to make a deal with people that he doesn't necessarily want to deal with. And the problem with that is that when he brings himself to their attention is consequently on him. So that's kind of the essentials of what this story is. Um, so once again, like, Benedict Jacka just dazzled me with what he's done with this book. Like, I can't help but just marvel in how different, how much more rich, how much more in depth this series is structurally from his first series, the Alex Verse series. Like, this is a world and a society and just a story in general. Like, this entire series, it's well thought out, it's well plotted, and clearly a lot of forethought went into all of this before he even started writing, because the amount of stuff that's packed in here, like, these books are rich, they're much more layered, they have much more depth to them than the Alex Reyes books in terms of just the world building, and they kind of, and as a result of that, the situations and the conflicts and the relationships that conform as a result. So what do I mean by that? I think it's kind of easiest to talk about that, or to go into that, by talking about the two pillars, like what I consider the two pillars at the heart of this series. The first of those is just family. So over the course of this book, we Stephen takes a look at family in a very different light than what he did in the first book. Now, in the first book, like, he was introduced to this whole extended family that he didn't know he had, and like, these people are extremely dysfunctional. It was practically a murderous introduction he got to them. In this book, we see him, like, come to grips with, okay, he's related to these people, and he decides to take that relationship in an interesting direction, one that bodes, that has very interesting ramifications for the future of the series. So in that way, we see a bit of growth, because by the end of that series, given everything that happened between him and these people that he literally just met, like, there was a lot of hatred, and there was a lot of justifiable. There was a lot of hatred there, and Stephen decides to take that relationship in a whole new direction. And that's just his extended family. Then there's the relationship with his immediate family. His father went missing, and the search for his father is a big component of this book. He Now that things have kind of settled, and he's a bit more of in a bit more of a solid place, just in terms of where his life is financially and all these things, he's able to kind of pursue threads that he wasn't able to pursue before, and it leads him, the pursuit of his father leads him to interact with a group, and interacting with this group is one of the major plot threads of this story. And that's his father. And then there's his mother, who, of course, like, at the cliffhanger at the end of book one, we is him meeting his mother for the first time. And we see, over the course of this book, we see the relationship that starts to form between them. But it's a very interesting relationship. Like, you it's not necessarily what you would expect, given the way that the first book ended and the tease that we got before reading this book. Like, it's going to be very interesting to see how that progresses. So, and those two story threads combined actually lead Stephen to where it comes to his immediate family. He's faced with the question of why is he bothering with these people? Like, at the end of the day, he's an adult. His parents have clearly moved on for whatever reason. They've chosen to move on. Why is he pursuing these people? What is at the heart of this desire? And it's a question that he had to confront and kind of make his bones with before he could decide on the best course of action of how he wanted to proceed with not just the search for his father, but the let's call it the let's call it the the word is failing me right now. The reconciliation with his mother, given their history. So there's that. And then the third component of this family pillar is the Fong family, mainly in regards to his friends, his friend group. That's been it really truly has been one of his core supports throughout this series so far that we've seen. And events have kind of forced him to take a hard look at his friends and look at what he think about what he values in his life and where he wants his life to go in, the direction and his ambition and his dreams and his goals, and look at the people that he's surrounding himself with and decide if these are people who are going to help build him up, or who are going to support him, or who are going to hold him back. And that's something that's like, at the end of the day, Stephen is a young guy. He literally just turned 20 and 21, and that's something. One of the core threads of this book is very much a new adult dealing with the struggles of being a new adult on their own, and that's something that everyone has to do at some point in their life. They have to look at the friends that they've had through their teenage years, whatever, and kind of decide who are the people they want to associate with to become the person that they want to be to go through life, and that really struck home. And then in regards to that other aspect of, a new adult kind of finding his way, that's another thread that just runs throughout this book. As Stephen, he continues to try and make his way through a world that just isn't built for people like him anymore. Like, he finally found himself on the semi-good footing with a job and whatever, and in the blink of an eye, everything it's right back to a struggle for survival. One of the things that keeps coming up over the course of this book is the skyrocketing cost of living and the pressures that he faces as a result. And as a result of that, this kind of brings us straight into the second pillar of the series so far, at least, and it's just late stage capitalism and the way it just completely grinds down young people in particular, who they're now trying to establish themselves in terms of their careers and their and these kind of things, and the way it just, like, the competition and the backfighting and the hustle culture and all these things, the way it just grinds you down, and it leaves you like it treats you like almost like disposable meat. And that's a frustration and a rage that is very core to Stephen's story. Like, people who like that whole broke student aspect of Patrick Rothfuss's Kingkiller Chronicles, they'll find a lot to empathize about it here, because this is something I think all young readers, it will resonate with. Like, we're all here at this moment. Like, we're all feeling these struggles, and this is something that Stephen is very much struggling with. It resonates even more for me because, like, similar to him, I don't have like a college background to push me, so the struggles that he faces as a result of not having a degree are some things I'm intimately familiar with. So there's that. It's just, like I said, these kind of things, and mind you, it makes this book sound like it's like incredibly introspective and these kind of things, and it is all those things. But at the end of the day, what's so incredible about this series for me is that Benedict Jacka just packs all of this into a fast-paced, action-packed thriller that's like roughly 300 pages at best. And when I say 300 pages, we're not talking like fine print or anything. Like these are, I literally received this book in an afternoon. I sat down and I read it in over the course of maybe like 5-6 hours, and that was it. And I'm a slow reader. To give context to this, like it's just because of the way that this world was just so intricately created that all of these things can play such a big part over the course of the story without even like bogging it down, without anybody going on a soapbox and these kind of things. They're just such, they're really well baked in. As for the actual story itself, this book is much slower than the first one, necessarily so, because there are threads from the first book, setups and these kind of things that had to be resolved in this book now that Stephen had the time. And at the same time, it sets a stage for what comes in the future. Like, that's very clear. There are some things mentioned here and some threads that are laid and some seeds that are planted that will resonate far into the future. It's easy to tell. So there's that. And that's not to say like this book is slow and is very expository or anything like that. Like, there's plenty of action sprinkled through here and there. Like, Stephen still very much struggles for survival, both literally and financially over the course of this book. And that ties in very much into the whole late stage capitalism thing. Like, he's forced to take on work that is criminal at best, and through it, we just get a further look at how sickeningly exploitative this whole society and the structure is, and which, like I said, it resonates with young readers. Like, readers in my age range and younger, they'll read this story and they'll see so much of what they face. And Stephen has the benefit of not even having racism to deal with on top of that. So, like it's, even for a slower book, even for like, I still enjoy this tremendously. It is a really great installment in the series, and honestly, the way these two books have gone, I can tell like Benedict Jacka plans for this series to be like prolonged. It's probably going to be anything like 10 books. I can easily see this series being one of my all-time favorites by the time it's done. Like, if this is just such a rich foundation and just such rich soil in which to plant and create a great story, I can imagine the heights to which he's going to take us by the end, when he's really had a chance to grow and take the story in the direction that he wants. Like, this is going to be an incredible journey. And if anything about this book sounds interesting, I highly, highly encourage you to just join me on this ride and try these books. There's only 2 out so far, and there's probably about 10 planned, but waiting for these books each year is one of the highlights of it, to be honest. Like, I'm just going to enjoy myself rereading these books over and over as release dates roll around. And yeah, I think that's kind of it. Like, I think I gushed enough about this book. Needless to say, I'm a fan. If you're like, if anything about the series sounds interesting to you, I highly recommend you check it out. And if you've made it this far into the video, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.